Hi, I'm Matt Pierce. We're back with 48 and 24 with a special guest, Lee LeFever. He is one of the founders of Common Craft and the author of The Art of Explanation. Welcome, Lee. Thanks for joining us.
It's great to be here.
And for those who have not been yet initiated, they could have seen your Forge episode with you, or they could have read your book. But for those that don't know you, tell us a little bit about what Common Craft is and a little bit about what the topic of your book is.
Sure. In 2007, Common Craft, which is mainly me and my wife, Sachi, started making animated videos with the goal of taking complex subjects and making them easy to understand. To do that, we use these paper cutouts on a whiteboard format that we call Common Craft style. Today, our main goal is helping teachers, educators, librarians, anybody teaching technology use animated videos to do it faster and better. And Common Craft is currently a membership service, so those folks can become members of Common Craft, and we provide those members embed codes for embedding the videos and downloading them so they can use them in PowerPoint presentations, lots of other platforms as well.
So for those who haven't seen them, they're actually, I love your cutouts, and we've talked about that before, so I don't need to gush too much. But why do you think that style works, Lee, in terms of having something that's, you know, I think far too often we think, oh, let's get a real thing, right? But these are very, they're not simple drawings like I draw simple drawings like a stick figure. But they're not overly complex. So why is that important, do you think?
I think that there's a couple of things. I think one of the big things is that it reduces the noise, right? Like we live in really noisy lives, especially visually. Visuals can get noisy really quickly. And, by the figures not having faces, for instance, not having real fingers and hands, we can focus on the messaging and less on someone thinking, ooh, who does that look like? Or who is that supposed to be somebody I know? Scott McCloud, who wrote the awesome book, Understanding Comics, said that the more a figure looks like a person, the less the audience can actually empathize with that character. The more it looks less like a specific person, the more the person can empathize with the character. So that's part of what we think about.
Wow, I hadn't thought about that, but that makes a lot of sense, right? Because then you're so focused on the details versus what it's representing.
Yeah, I think so. I think there's a lot of subconscious things that go on that we don't even realize, where we're thinking, we might be thinking about, wow, am I attracted to them or not, or whatever else. If you take away the face and everything, you pretty much can skip all that.
Wow, that's a very interesting drawing you have there, Lee. So you mentioned, and I think this is a shift from last time we talked, where I think you were kind of focused a lot more broadly, but really to narrow down on education. Do you see lots of educators trying to use the style to communicate to their classes, or whether it's K-12 or higher ed?
Definitely. I think that the general idea of making a Common Craft style video is happening all the time. If you go to YouTube and search for Common Craft style, you'll see literally thousands of videos that teachers and students have worked on in the classroom. Those are inspired by our work, but not using our products per se. We would love to be a part of that, because that's why we have a library of our cutouts. So that the teachers who would like to just be able to print out ready-made cutouts for their videos can do that too. But we're happy to see them inspired by our work, whatever materials they use.
So, I mean, at the heart of, and the reason I enjoy talking to you is, we're not talking about a TechSmith product here. We're talking about the idea of visuals help you to communicate and clarify the message, right?
Yeah.
So as you've been doing this work, I'm sure you've learned a lot, like you just said with Scott McCloud's work and taking away some of the detail. Are there things that, as people make their Common Craft inspired, we'll put in quotes, videos, are there things that you've learned that really help those to resonate with people? Besides that, you have this great artwork. What else is there that makes those effective?
I think that we spend a lot of time on the script, like on writing a good explanatory script. And our focus is explanation. You mentioned it before, but I wrote a book called The Art of Explanation. And that book came out of our work on videos. And we really looked at our work and our library of videos and tried to ask ourselves, what's really working here? Like, what are we learning about explanation? And what we found was that the idea and what works about explanation is not necessarily related to any media. or videos. It's really oftentimes just good writing. And that's what I really encourage people to do is use visuals. I'm a huge believer in visuals, but the combination of visuals and quality writing and actually good explanation can really be, really powerful.
So I definitely believe that, and but I think it's hard to quantify when you say good writing. Like, what makes good writing in explanation? And let's focus on explanation because that's your expertise. There's lots of
Sure.
good writing like storytelling, or there's good writing that's fiction, but I'm not worried about that.
Sure, sure.
Are there key identifiable things that make for good writing in explanation?
I think there's a couple of things that I always focus on. Explanation is circumstantial. It depends on who your audience is, and understanding your audience and the language they use is really important. I think people sometimes confuse explanation with simplifying, and I think that's not always the case. That explanation, like I said, is circumstantial, and the key is using familiar language. It's not simple language. It's not the boiling something down to the most basic thing so that a 5-year-old in every situation can understand it. Because if you're talking to a room of PhDs, it's not going to work. So the key in my mind is familiar language, not simple language. And that combined with a few things like building context, taking the time to take a step back and talk about the world where your ideas live first before you talk about the ideas. We say focus on the forest, then focus on the trees.
Interesting, and there is a little bit of a theme that's come up this as we talked to some people earlier today. The audience, knowing your audience seems like that's one of the most critical and can't be emphasized enough. And I think we often take for advantage. We know our audience. Oh, I know who my audience is, and we just start writing. Do you do anything like when you're making a video, and obviously, if it's for a client, it might be different, but when you're thinking maybe more broadly, are there steps you do to help you make sure you're nailing who your audience is?
It's a good question. Our audience is very broad. I think compared to someone who's working in a company or is presenting to a specific group, that's a slightly easier because you can get an idea for what those people have in common. For us, it's sort of like a lot of people. It's almost everybody. I think we basically draw on our own experience as much as we can and look at the videos that are the most used and the most useful to people and think about the language and the sort of strategy we're using in that case. We often sometimes do bring in content experts. We call them technical advisors to just make sure that we're accurate, but we sometimes have to translate some of that technical jargon and everything into language that we feel like is familiar and appropriate for our audience.
Yeah, and that makes total sense. So I guess, Lee, you've made a lot of videos now. How many videos have you made, probably?
Yeah, well, I mean, in our library that's available to members, there's about 62, I think.
62. Okay, so you've had some.
Yeah.
You made one or two. You got some experience here. Are there things that you find about making videos? Like if you were to give someone a tip, again, beyond knowing the audience, more maybe about the technical video making.
Yeah.
Again, these Common Craft inspired type videos. Are there things that you found that like you need to know to make them maybe look better, be a little bit more successful?
Yeah. I think that it's all trial and error. There's some things that I think are easy to neglect. And so often have fairly easy solutions, and one is sound. People I think neglect or don't consider the role of quality sound and how it has the ability to either make something sound really great but you're not sure why, or maybe make a video feel cheaper than it should because there's some sound issues. So that's something that we tried to do. Well, the first couple of videos we would make the video and then watch it and think, what sucks the most about this? And then the next video, we would try to fix that thing. And we're doing this today. Every time we do a video, this could be a little bit better. And it's this iterative process that allowed us to sort of create this customized world of things that work for us, and it's different for everybody. But the real key is just to get started. Like, start doing it. Like, there's no better way to learn it than just start. Nobody has to see it in the beginning.
I like that. I think we're going to coin the LeFever suck test. And it's and that's the by definition, it's what sucked in this video that you can fix in the next one.
Yeah,
I like that. Well,
an iterative process.
yeah, well, it makes, I mean, it makes a lot of sense, right? Because you can't probably fix everything that you would want. I mean, because
Hmm.
most people, especially the we talk to, and I'm sure the audience watching today can resonate. It resonates that I'm good at this. I know my topic. I know this. I'm good at this. I might not be good at these 5 things that
Yeah.
the digital world's expecting me to do, like whether it's audio design or creating graphics or whatever it might be.
Yeah, I've said before that when we started making Common Craft videos, we had no background in video production, animation, even education. Like we don't have no formal training, and it wasn't something that occurred to us at the time was to go learn that stuff. We just kind of just tried it the best we could at the time. And I think that had we stopped and said, "Oh man, I need to go take a class on video production," I'm not sure we would have gotten the same output. Like I think that there's something that goes along with learning it yourself versus learning how the standard way of doing it is, or how you might learn it in a classroom. I mean, that stuff is valuable. There's no doubt about it. But in our case, it was really helpful, I think, just to find our way through. And I think it made Common Craft videos what they are.
Yeah, I'm guessing. I remember last time we talked, you talked about the kind of the first videos. What was it, like a whiteboard on the floor or on a table and pointed.
Yeah.
Good chance maybe you would never have done that because I'm guessing no professional media course would have taught you that, right?
Yeah, well, I do think about like what if I had had a professor that was a meaningful person in my life who I really respected their work. If I had gone to film school and made something like that RSS video, I probably would have been embarrassed to show it to them, and that would have kept me from even publishing it. But that's been our most, in a lot of cases, our most viewed video, and it's technically pretty bad. Like the technical parts of it don't work, and I think that didn't matter because the message is what the goal was. It wasn't perfect graphics or perfect animation or perfect anything. It was the explanation. At the end of the day, it answers the question, we want people to feel like that it answers the question, did this make it easy to understand? And I think if that's the case, then that can supersede anything else.
Absolutely. So if I know you're going to be out on the road a little bit, it sounds like you're going to be where are you going to be? If someone wanted to meet up with you or listen to what you have to say in addition to this, where might they find you in the near future?
Well, next week we are going. Sachi and I both will be at South by Southwest EDU, which happens basically all next week. So we'll be there till Thursday night. So if any folks out there are there, we would love to meet up and say hello.
Fantastic. And they can find you on. I know you're on Twitter. We've got your handle up on the screen.
Yep.
They can also read your book. That's a small thing, right?
Yeah, I would love that. That's The Art of Explanation. Is the book. You can find it on Amazon. You can also find it at, theartofexplanation.com.
Fantastic. And if you guys are interested, you can go find out more about Common Craft. Commoncraft.com, correct?
That's right.
So go look at the visuals that Lee and Sachi have put together. They're really great. They look good, and I think they make for help in the process of making compelling explanations, and even probably some compelling storytelling.
Yeah, it's kind of like the cutouts are sort of our own little brand of clip art. And that might not be the most flattering comparison, but that's what we're trying to do is create we have over 1,400 cutouts now that are perfect for like PowerPoint presentations to give your PowerPoint a consistent and hopefully compelling style.
Absolutely. So we're going to have Lee, if you can stay around for another minute, we're going to end our recording, but we're going to cut this one off. Thanks again to Lee LeFever from Common Craft. And go ahead, really do check out his book, The Art of Explanation. It is excellent, lots of great information. If you want to be an explainer and you want to be able to help people understand things, some great ideas involved in that book. So go ahead and check it out. We're going to cut for just a second and we'll be right back with more 48 in 24.